Warwick Township Board of Supervisors meeting for November 17th, 2025. Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States, to the republic which stands one nation under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Board met in executive session to discuss matters of personnel and litigation. Like the approval of the minutes from October 20th. Second, all in favor? Aye. Announcements, Scott.
Thank you. The Sears Packet Police Car will be held at the Warwick Fire Company on Saturday, November 22nd from 10 a.m. to 2 p.m. The list of suggested donations can be found at warwickbracket.com. The Ho 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 Holiday Party will be held in Warwick Community Park on Saturday, December 6th from 11 a.m. to 1 p.m. This event is free and open to all ages. A reminder that the December Board of Supervisors meeting will be held the first Monday of the month, December 1st at 7 p.m. For more information on these events, please visit warwickbracket.com.
Citizens comment. Robert.
Good evening. I'm Robert Broderick. Some of you may know that I ran Warwick Township Supervisor in the last election. As I knocked on a lot of the Warwick residents' doors campaign, I received some great ideas. And since I don't have the opportunity to address these as a supervisor, as a boss, I would like to bring them up to you now real quickly, just make sure you hear that so that they can be addressed or look at it. Thank you. So many of the residents have heard about excessive speeds on roads, Tulip Road, Beatty Lane, Sunrise Way. I know we had some other comments here throughout other supervisor meetings going forward about speeding. And I would urge that the township manager, supervisors, and Warwick Police Department collaborate and implement proven best practices for speed management throughout the township. There are a lot of issues on speed when I was talking to you. Other residents were questioning the locations for the sidewalks in the township. I applaud and I really support adding sidewalks for both walkability and safety in the township. However, and I do understand that we have a limited budget and we have to make decisions on how we're going to spend that budget. However, I don't believe that the residents of Warwick had enough input to determine where you want to put those sidewalks. So I would hope that in the next time that you make decisions with sidewalks for next year's budget, you open that up and find better ways to get citizens' comments about where we're putting sidewalks. It really does affect it. It's a great thing to be doing. Please let's make sure we're getting good comments. Some residents had questions about township upkeep of water retention basins. Comments on that. I would ask for more detailed information on which basins we have are naturalized and the naturalization process is on the website, and the mowing practice of the other basins be posted on the public website. There is some information there, but it would be nice for everyone to understand what we're doing, how we're preserving those places, and knowing which one of the basins is in what state and who should be responding for that. There were a lot of concerns and questions about, well, what about that one? But that one over there is just bad information, not out. The last thing I will say is I've been a resident for Warwick for 23 years. And I believe that during that time, the Board of Supervisors has acted in the best interest of our community. Robin, you did win the election, but you didn't receive over 50% of the vote. So I hope that going forward, the supervisors will keep that in mind. We continue to strive to represent all the Warwick residents. Thank you very much.
Thank you. We also have DJ.
So I know we're passing the budget today. Just want to reiterate a lot of that campaign stuff, political speech. If you think that Warwick Fire Company did ask for $100,000 for a generator, you offered them $50,000. I think we need to fund the generator. This is an area that police use in emergencies when there's power outages. I really don't want the SWAT team messing with their firearms in the dark. Our fire company gets housed there in emergencies. When the township does lose power in snowstorms, we do lose power in electrical storms. If they need $100,000 for a generator, they have the money in the account. Let's give them $100,000. Don't make them have to fundraise and pass a boot. It makes us look bad as a township. When they come to us hat in hand, basically saying, hey, please let me spend my own money. When give me $100,000 so I can buy this generator we need. We should give them the tools they need. As someone who's been a firefighter and gone into burning buildings, I don't want to come back to a firehouse that has no power after just sitting, sweating sweating to death in a burning building, and then have to come back to a place with no power. Let's give them what they need. All I have is please reconsider giving them the $100,000.
Thank you.
The first item will check, which is going to be, correct. So the township has the 2026 budget, for advertising, it was advertised, it's up for adoption. I did discuss the generator with the fire company. I did want to make it known, the fire company does have a generator currently, it just doesn't power the entire building.
Correct.
It doesn't power us. The fire company, their wish now is to do an engineering study of the building to appropriately determine the size, capacity of the generator, so as to not get a generator that's either too small or too big. So that's their plan. They want to take the 50,000 that was offered by the Board of Supervisors and use it for an engineered study, as well as it's not going to cost $450, but then as well as buy additional gear. Because it actually, like everything they do expire. So that is the only change. It's not a numerical change, it's not a category change. It's a change to the budget worksheet and the under the fire fund worksheet change. So the numbers that you advertise to me, so if you'd like to, you may entertain adopting the budget.
Michael, do you have any questions on the budget?
No questions.
Can I have a motion?
Make a motion that we approve the 2026 township budget.
All in favor? Aye.
Thank you. Next is the proposed fee schedule presentation. Brandon Huber, the Director of Planning and Zoning, to come up and the fee schedule modifications. These are the changes. She's not going to go over the entire fee schedule. She's just going to change it between this year's fee schedule and next year.
Good evening, supervisors.
Maybe, right?
As Kyle mentioned, I'm here to present to you the 2026 fee schedule. You can kick that off with the first request here. It's for two new building permit fees. Neither one of these existed in 2025. We found a need for them over the course of this year. They're not occurring since it happened often. The first one is a fence over 6 foot. This is in the case of non-residential properties. The zoning ordinance are allowed to go over the 6 foot, but the building code does not require a permit unless it's over 6 foot. So that would be the case in a non-residential or a residential property that receives a variance, that we would need this fee. Also wrapped into the fence fee is required pool barriers. So that's for existing pool barriers, not a component of a pool permit, but rather if your pool is already existing, you need to replace that fence. The building inspector is going to need to look at that to make sure it's an appropriate fence for protection of your pool. So that's why we're requesting the fence fee. The next one in this category is structural retaining walls. Again, not something we see often, but with the Shahada development on Boston Road, there was the implementation of several structural retaining walls. So we wanted to make sure that we recapture that in the future. So that's also also failed to mention, if any questions along the way.
So, for example, on the retaining wall,
Yes.
we're just recapturing the costs that we had involved in inspecting the construction.
That's right, from a building code perspective, yeah. They're still being looked at from an engineering perspective. But the building code, when you have a wall that is retaining some sort of load, the building code official does need to review it and accept it. Moving on, the next request would be to, allow for a scale for escrow as it relates to road occupancies in the case of underground facilities or excavations. We've seen this with the PICO project that's been going on throughout the township. We want to make sure that those roads are restored properly. And in order to do so, we'd like to have an appropriate escrow. And any remaining funds that are not deducted from that escrow will be returned to the applicant at the conclusion of the project.
How was the sliding scale determined?
Sure, so these are reviewed by the Public Works Director, and he knows the level of which this work is being proposed and what that restoration is gonna look like. So he's gonna essentially dictate based on the proposal where we're gonna need those funds, whether it's gonna be on the lower end or on the higher end, depending on the proposal and then how in depth that proposal is. Okay. Moving along, the next one is residential construction of new dwelling. This is in the case when it's not associated with a land development. So in those situations where you have an existing lot and somebody wants to build a new home, we'd also like to request an increase on the escrow for this as well. We're seeing more of this as we have less land to develop. So we wanted to ask for a higher escrow to cover the costs associated with inspections and reviews from outside agencies for those, and any remaining escrow that's not deducted from that. Grading permits, we are requesting an increase in the fees associated with additional plan review, voluntary plan review, and revised as-built plan reviews. This is directly in line with increases we'll see a little bit later from our engineering firm, just to make sure that we're capturing the costs associated with these reviews and inspections.
Okay, so for voluntary plan, could you just go over the distinction between
Sure.
an additional and voluntary, for example?
Sure, so in the very beginning, there's a grading permit fee, and that will include your plan review and a certain number of inspections. For example, if you have your first plan review and that gets denied, it needs some cleaning up or some things to be tended to, you have an additional plan review. So you're gonna have to pay for that to go back down to the engineer. Voluntary plan review is if you have a situation where you want to do something that doesn't fall within one of those grading or drainage categories or erosion sediment control categories. We can certainly send that down to CKS. If it's not something you feel comfortable enough to do in-house and we need some engineering guidance, we will send that down, and that's the fee associated with that. And then revised as-built is when we get the initial as-built, it falls short, it needs to be re-reviewed.
So in summary, just for this example, again, 2025 review shows we were just incurring more costs than we could cover with the system.
That's correct. Yes, we did do, we analyzed the bills over the course of the year and compared them to what we were receiving in permit fees, and it was falling short. And then we also had the increases associated with annual increases of our professional. Next one is use non-compete certificates. This is a new fee that we'd like to request. This is in the case of an ownership change of an existing approved user. So there's an existing structure, existing business. It's literally the property owner is just selling that whole package to another person. So really, it's not kicking off the need for a UNO because the businesses are existing, are already operating there. It's really just an ownership change, and we don't know who those people are. So we don't have, when that happens, other than a deed registration, we don't have contact information for them, emergency contact addresses, because a lot of these folks aren't even in the state. So that was the mechanism for this.
So for example, that would be,
Tractor supply, so thank you for asking, so tractor supply and while that property sold not too long ago, there were some things that we needed to address with the property owner, and we didn't know how to get a hold of them, because it transferred without having any contact information. So that really spurred this request.
this is all in this way and not.
Right, absolutely, you got it. There is actually another line item that already exists for changing tenants. So if you have a tenant that goes from one unit to another unit, whether that's is a non-residential situation, probably non-residential more so. We already are using this fee for that situation as well.
These are the same.
Yeah. The next one is zoning hearing board applications, so this is non-refundable filing fees and escrows associated with that. This is another situation where we analyze the bill, we notice the discrepancy between, the charges and what the actual filing fees and escrows we were receiving were. So we wanted to ensure that we recaptured the amounts, that were appropriate for the zoning hearing board. So that is what you're seeing here. So you'll have a residential line item and then a non-residential. And then the next slide is a continuation of that, because we also made some changes to the additional hearing or extension request. We actually did something a little different this year with this. We decided to break this out into two separate situations, because in situations where the night of the hearing, the applicant is there, they decide on a continuance for one reason or another, and it's announced at that hearing that it's going to be continued. That means that it no longer needs to be advertised, it's verbally advertised at that hearing, but then there's also instances where people pull off the agenda. So, in that situation, it wasn't announced at the hearing, and we agreed on that. So we gave two separate situation, you'll notice that the no ad situation where it's presented at public hearing is slightly less expensive than if we had a running ad. And the increases are also associated with what we did analyzing the bill. Kind of in line with that zoning hearing board application situation is the board of supervisors for conditional use. We're actually seeing a bit of an uptick in these. It's not often we get to see these. So, more recently, we analyzed the bills. We noticed that there was a discrepancy and we had to, request an increase to recapture those costs.
Why is there a specific built up quarry asphalt concrete?
They are much more in-depth applications. So, we haven't had one that's in here. But if you look in the zoning ordinance, there's a lot of criteria that goes along with that use. And in reviewing that use and going through the motions of that hearing, it's gonna be an intense process. Subdivision land development, same similar situation. Concept plans are submitted, we require just an escrow. As long as there's professionals in attendance, because we need to cover those costs for those requests for that type of meeting. So we've had quite a few of those more recently, and once again, doing the analysis, we're realizing that we need to ask for an increase in that escrow to make sure that we're covering the costs associated with those concept plan meetings. This is another escrow situation, so any funds that are not deducted from that base amount will be returned to the applicant. This is the administration section, professional rate increases specific to the engineering world. So you will see that there have been minor increases in each line item. One thing I did want to point out is that the junior engineer profession, I guess, or title is no longer a thing. And so you'll see it below as assistant engineer 2, which is a different type of position than junior engineer was. That's why it's more expensive than you would have seen last year. It's a different position with different responsibilities. Okay, and then my last slide here is for tow fees. So these are at the request of the tow companies for market rate. So that was what we did here as far as reflecting those. We would request an increase as well as an additional line for additional recovery when Jane 14. That is my final slide. Thank you.
All right, thank you very much. Michael, any questions on the presentation? Robin? Can I get a motion?
Make a motion to approve the 2026 proposed fee schedule.
Second.
All in favor? Aye.
Thank you. Next item is resolution 2025-33, the 2026 tax millage rates. The requirement that we pass a resolution that memorializes the tax millage rates included in the budget that is passed for next year. The millage rates, of course, since we're not taxing, the millage rate is, and also the millage is not being reallocated. The allocation is identical.
Michael, any questions? Rob?
Question.
Member Rich?
Make a motion to adopt resolution 2025-33, 2026 tax millage rate.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Thank you. Next is resolution 2025-34. This resolution has the township to join and support the Highlands Conservation Act grant program. The Heritage Conservancy, partnering with Bucks County government, they're interested in applying to this program to receive funding for a conservation easement located in Warwick Township. Specifically, it's a 91 acre farm. 80 of the acres are in Warwick, 11 are in Hampton Township, located off Wilkinson Road in the Rushland section of Warwick. This resolution is requisite for the grant application. So they're asking you to consider.
Okay. Michael, any questions?
Just a clarification. So we are putting a resolution in place to support their request for conservation of property. Cost the same thing.
All right, can I ask for a motion?
Make a motion that we approve resolution 2025-34. Conservation Act grant program.
All in favor?
Aye.
Next is ordinance 2025-04. It's the Department of Recreation ordinance amendment. Last month, the amendment was shown before the public, presented. Dan Sheridan was here and went over the changes, and they agreed to change some to as prohibiting high-powered e-bikes, so it's not your casual e-bike, but your high speeds, travel. Well, it's what makes them obvious for your own personal property. Like,
Michael, any questions?
One question. Chiefs, what do we do if we find somebody? We find somebody violating the rule?
Obviously, it depends on the circumstances. It's an ordinance violation, so they could be issued a non-traffic citation. Fine. But like I said, it's fact specific. So what the appropriate action is.
So if they're driving their little scooter ripping off our baseball fields, it would be.
Well, that there might be other charges for that. Besides just operating in the park. That could be even institutional vandalism.
It's Parks and Recreation ordinance amendment.
All in favor?
Next item is the 2025-2026 no removal bid. Following the advertisement of the bid, the township received one bidder, which is Rushland Concepts. They are repeating the snow removal contractor, and they were a good performer for us. Therefore, we recommend awarding the bid to Rushland Concepts LLC.
And they have enough equipment to do everything we need.
They do. They're a large outfit. In prior years, we had a couple snow removal contractors, but they all provide a small vehicles. This company can provide
Very, maybe considerable increase to.
But, the insurance that we're aware of, that they have to obtain to get the tax refund. There's also a growing trend that some municipalities have the ones that we're competing with, in a way, is municipalities, school districts, hospitals, all times of the day, they're providing some kind of guaranteed pay. So, maybe that's so maybe part of the reason too, fortunate that one is
Any questions?
Motion that we.
All in favor?
Aye.
Next is the treasurer's report for the month of October 2025. Expenditures outpaced revenues by $796,207. Real estate transfers posted $42,231. Building permits posted $25,539. Earned income tax posted $219,265. And local service tax posted $9,003. Fund balances for October are as follows, subject to audit. General fund, $15,792,763. Firehouse and equipment, $735,739. Road machinery, $122,250. Capital projects fund, $413,725. Highway aid fund, $16,467. Parks and recreation, $749,980. Parks and recreation capital, $581,067. And capital reserve, $90,639, for a total of $18,502,630.
Michael, any questions?
No questions.
Comments?
Make
Everybody?
a motion to adopt the treasurer's report for October 2025.
All in favor? Aye.
Next is the bill payments. I request approval of the bill payments from November 3rd, totaling $159,689.62, and for November 17th, totaling $181,283.41, subject to audit.
Questions, Michael?
Question.
Comments? Everybody?
Make a motion to adopt the payments for 11/3/11/2025.
Okay. Aye. All right, thanks, Kyle.
Thank you.
Listen, you're off the hook for the next 6 months. Engineers,
I have one item for you that is as per release number 10 for land development number 19-02, which is the development known as 1549 Stony Road. We are recommending the reduction in the financial security in the amount of $14,829.25.
thank you. Michael, any questions? Comments?
No questions.
Can I have a motion?
Motion for escrow release number 10 for land development 19-02, 1549 Stony Road.
Second. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Thank you.
Thank you. Old business, Michael. Robin? Kyle? New business, Michael? Robin? Kyle? Okay, public comment? Seeing none? I'll call for adjournment. Moving 2 weeks.